Bet you 20 bucks. Make the shot just the way I made it before.
Nobody can make that shot, and you know it. Not even a lucky lush.
What The Hustler did was it reminded the public that the romance of pool is not about family fun. The romance of pool is about freedom, and it's about danger, and it's about that sort of gambling element that's often sort of associated with the game.
Pretty much what people think of as a hustler, somebody who will try to play you for money.
Come on, set him up again.
Lose the first 2 games on purpose, and then start to win. If they're really good at that part of the game, then they could be like a good hustler.
Pool's been around since probably the 15th century. The industry will often talk about the noble origins of pool, but very, very early on there was also a very sort of common element to the game. The game quickly became associated with gambling and hustling and all sorts of the sporting life. When the hustler came about, it sparked a real renaissance of this sport, which is, as we know, sort of a sport of rogues, and that's what the hustler was all about. And made it possible for guys like Jersey Red, his real name was Jack Bright, to make a living for themselves. The craze itself lasted a decade at least. There were some folks like Rudolph Wandrone, who sort of took on the persona of Minnesota Fats, who was portrayed by Jackie Gleason in the film. He became perhaps one of the most well-known real-life pool players that this country's ever known.
A good hustler really does his research. The guys with money is who a hustler is looking for. And sometimes it'll even take months to set up one match with a player.
Boys just passing through?
Yep.
I know this guy who does research like that. He'll go into a town, live for 5 months, get to know this guy. He calls him a mark or a fish because that's his target. And he'll play some role. He'll put on some uniform for a gas station or whatever, and take on this whole other alter ego.
What do you guys sell?
Drugger supplies. Buster is going to get an award.
And he sets it up to where he takes them off for like $100,000 or $200,000 in that one day or in that 1 week.
What do you say, Charlie, huh?
Play a little pool, wait out the heat. It's going to cost you money, it always does.
Oh, come on. Stop stalling, huh? Grab yourself a few.
A lot of times it's very hard to detect. They're not married, but they'll put on a wedding ring. Sometimes they'll come in dressed as an old car mechanic, say. That was an old famous ploy. Or dressed like an old farmer. And this is something you see out in rural areas.
What a hustler will do is go to a town, find out the pecking order of the players, and try to start from the bottom and work his way to the top. Because traditionally you don't want to go in if you're a hustler and beat the best guy in town, because now you can't hustle all the other guys.
Jersey Red and other pool hustlers would play in such a way that they just barely seemed to come away with victories, and it also seemed like luck more than anything else. But no matter what the other guy would do, no matter what level he brought it up to, they seemed never to be able to win.
A hustler doesn't have to be a great player. It could even be worse than the person that they're playing.
You lucky punk. I quit you.
Hustling involves psychology, both an ability to aggravate and charm an opponent, sometimes simultaneously.
You quitting too? You're a pretty good player.
A hustler will go into a pool hall and see this guy playing and be like, wow, you play good, man. You're a good player. Just kind of pump up their ego or whatever. And then, you want to play some? And then they'll beat him. Or they'll tear him down. They'd be like, man, you're nothing, man. I can beat you. And then the other guy would be like, what are you talking about? Let's play.
That's one.
It's pure hustling, and it involves a matter of sort of understanding who your opponent is and understanding his weaknesses. And you have to be able to play pool, but you also have to have an ability to understand the psychology of a situation. And a lot of these guys can make thousands and thousands of dollars being able to do this successfully. A great hustler will also pick up certain tricks.
I use them for entertainment. I've actually gone around all over the world, done some trick shot shows and stuff. So there's a lot of great shots. Some of them can be used for hustling or for money, like a little proposition bet. Well, we know Paul Newman had his road shot in the opening scene of the movie The Hustler. Well, my grandfather had his own road shot that he could rely on when he couldn't find a game. And he would set this shot up with a cue ball exactly on the spot, the head spot up here, and the object ball frozen in the exact middle on the rail, frozen on the rail right by the spot. And he would go into a pool hall and set it up, miss it, keep missing it, and then guys would be like, what are you trying to do? And he would say, well, I'm trying to cut that ball into the pocket. And they said, well, that's impossible. That's more than a 90-degree cut. He said, oh yeah? Want to bet $100 on it? So of course they would. He'd get a whole crowd over, and he would bet even money that he could make that shot into either pocket. And he would. And one time he made 7 out of 10 tries for $100 a shot. So that's it. It requires a lot of spin. It's a skill shot, and you're just betting that you can make it. So what you do is you aim almost full into the ball, and the spin is going to deflect the ball off to the side. And then when it hits the rail, it's going to hit the rail first. All that spin is going to pull the cue ball into the object ball and allow you to cut it. It's an amazing shot. When you make it, you're going to like it. Yeah. So this one's a real mean shot. Put the 2 balls on the rail and the 3rd ball on top of it, and you put the cue ball at the other end of the table. You say, well, you know what, I bet you I can hit that ball on top before I hit the other 2 balls. You're like, well, it's crazy. You'd have to jump the ball in the air like 7 feet and hit it perfectly. You hit the cue ball, it rolls down the table, then you just tap the table, and then the balls fall out of the way, the ball falls down, the cue ball hits it. Really pay attention to shots that are actually illegal. They're fouls, but people don't know that. When the cue ball is frozen to a ball and that ball is frozen to the rail, if you push the cue ball, it's going to squirt the other ball into the pocket. And it looks great. It's a really cool shot, but it's illegal. If the cue ball is close to a couple other balls, you can hit the cue ball deflects off, the other ball goes out of the way, and then your cue stick comes through and hits the object ball into the pocket, which is a foul, but it all happens so fast that the other player doesn't know what happened. It looks like you made this crazy, impossible shot. Gambling lingo. There's tons of it. A shark is someone who tries to distract you while you're playing and try to mess you up.
You can do all sorts of things. You can chalk your cue. You can undo your cue. You can wipe your brow. You can blow your nose. You can wind your watch.
Stall. They're keeping their level down so that they can barely beat you or just turn it up a little bit later and then beat you right when they need to. Post up means put the money up. You know, like guys will be talking back and forth, right? It's kind of like post up the money. I mean, you know, it's kind of like guys will try to get at each other, like, you know, rib at them to get them to play. There's all this side betting, that's another term. Side betting. The rail means people who are on the side, like, you know, leaning up against the rail birds. And it's side action. They're betting on the side, like kind of like a horse race. And that's what they'll call a pool player, is a horse. If you're backing, you know, somebody, then that's your horse. And that's why a stake horse is a stake horse, because he's staking the money for his horse to play, right? So you have the rail birds, stake horses, the horses, players.
The game is alive and well in this country, and it's a different game. It's a game that men and women are both playing, and pool halls now have leagues, have regular leagues, and so hustling can be more difficult nowadays.
In pool halls, anytime you have good players in pool halls, most of it's not hustling. Today, most of the great players, even if they're young, are known because of the internet, and because they don't care about hustling. They're Billy the Kid. They want to go out, they want to win the money gambling, beat all the best players. Some people don't play as well under the pressure. Everybody's choked, even the great players, and they don't like that. So it's about heart. And you need that. You need to have that heart.